It's going to be a challenge because I had notes to go with the slides, and I can't look at the notes and have the slides up at the same time. So, yeah, I know I should have printed them out. No.
The wonders of computers, eh?
That's right. So, this is still a work in progress. This is something I've been thinking about for quite a while now. And I sort of started to give this talk at the last meeting. And since then, there's been a lot more sort of things come to mind. We're reading this book at the moment, The Republican Brain, Chris Mooney. Awesome book, highly recommended. And what he basically talks about is that all beliefs are psychologically motivated. That all belief systems. So whether you're a liberal or a conservative or religious or not religious, there's a sort of a psychological place where that motivation comes from. And hopefully, with this talk, what I can do is, because I used to be a Christian, and now I'm not, so I have kind of an understanding of what it's like to be someone who thinks faith is the be-all and end-all, and coming out of that, a perspective on how it shouldn't be. And hopefully this what I want to do with this talk is maybe bring a little compassion to our understanding of the religious and where they're coming from. I know it's really easy to, especially if you've come out of a religious tradition, to be resentful of the ideology that kept you bound and, you know, blocked all that life experience, all that intellectual experience, and all that. But I think what we need to do is to notice that the people that are still in it aren't so much the problem. It's the beliefs and faith, which, yeah, I think is very offensive. Now, there's a problem when you talk about faith, and that is that it's a lot of different things all rolled into one. And so what I've tried to do is break it up, and my motivation in doing it was to break it up into lots and give them labels according to their function, what they do within the believer. And first of all, we've got mundane faith, which is basically just another word for trust. Positive faith, which is what most atheists seem to think faith is, which is acceptance of beliefs without evidence. And that seems to be the online atheist community. That's mainly what they talk about when they talk about faith.
I thought that was the dictionary definition.
Could be. But again, I'm trying to do it according to function. That's why it's called positive faith and not just faith. Active faith, which is magical thinking, and it's not just religious people who do that. You know, you might sort of think to yourself, oh, if I can just get this parking spot, or if I can just, you know, you can make deals with yourself, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. Or, yeah, I'll get into that later. And negative faith. Now, this is the most important one, I think, for understanding religious people. This is the thing that stops anything from getting to them, any sort of contrary evidence. And it's the final fallback position, the final defense mechanism of the religion. It's kind of like a line in the sand, this far and no further. So you can be arguing with someone who's a Christian, and you can destroy every argument that they bring up, and after they've gone back around and said the same arguments again, like they're new and exciting, and you've done that a few times, eventually it'll get down to, oh, it's just faith. And that far and no further. That's the end of the argument. Okay, mundane faith, another word for trust. I have faith in my friends. I have faith that the sun will rise tomorrow. I have faith in the democratic process. I have faith in the justice system. What I'm trying to do is stretch it, make it a little bit stretchier each time. But it's basically just mundane, just trust, but it allows the fallacy of equivocation. So a religious person will say, well, you have trust in science, or you have faith in science, or you have faith in logic, or you have faith in reason. Not the same thing at all. And atheists can also be fooled by this fallacy themselves, but that's more to do with the faith without evidence thing, which we're getting to. Okay, positive faith. Acceptance of beliefs without evidence. Now, this is what most atheists talk about, when, especially online community, when they talk about faith. But this is only really active when there's a new belief on offer. That doesn't happen very often for a religious person, because they mainly just download the whole religion right at the start. And what I've done with each of these, because the more I think about it, the more it seems like there's psychological mechanisms at work that these little ideas of faith fit into, and we're all prone to them. Our brains aren't so good, I don't think, at thinking rationally and logically. I think that's kind of an added-on thing. I'm not sure that it evolved for that. We have an evolutionary psychologist here who will tell us all later, I hope, the way it did evolve. But motivated thinking seems to be what we all do. And if we're motivated for truth, then that's great. And so that's what we should be when we're trying to come to a right decision. But not everyone is. Now, what leads to positive faith? What leads to acceptance of beliefs without much evidence? So, and it's rife in our culture. Religious tolerance and pluralism, I think, is a huge source of this. There are many paths up Mount Fujiyama. One faith is as good as another. This idea that what you have to do, one of your tasks in life, when you're starting out, when you're a teenager and you're going into your 20s, is to search for your own personal truth, as if truth has anything to do with personal preference. Those things, particularly in my case, those sort of things were what was the source of the fall of reason, I call it, when I first converted to Christianity. And for no good rational reason. The arguments I got were as inane and as stupid as they are today. There were other psychological things going on at the time and these little, half-cracked open doors that allowed it to get in. The virtue of being open-minded, or gullible, as most of us call it. Ironically, though, open-minded people are the least open to rational inquiry, and the most likely to jump to a superstitionist conclusion. Hearing a noise or a creak, oh, it's a ghost. Okay, and once they've jumped to that conclusion, that's it. There's no investigation anymore. There's no, well, what could it have been? Bang, they've jumped to the conclusion. All inquiry is stopped at that point. But yeah, the being open-minded. Oh, you're just closed-minded. That's why you don't believe in homeopathy, say. You're just closed-minded. Yeah. Okay. Hebrews 11:1. Now, this is the most famous scripture in Christianity in terms of what faith is, or the definition of faith, which is, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's anything. Come on, let's face it. You having that as your definition of what you're going to accept, I've got a bridge to sell you. Like, you know, that's yeah. But basically, what they're talking about is Christian things. So Christian leaders and those things you should believe without evidence. Or that faith is the evidence.
Alaric.
Yes.
I can ask. Sorry to interrupt. It's often quoted as the promise of things not seen. Do you know what the best translation of that is?
No. I've always heard that's the most common translation. The evidence of things not seen. The promise of things not seen. Again, it's the not seen that's kind of the fallacy. Okay. Now, part of this positive faith, once the conversion experience has happened, we all have within us a psychological need for logical consistency. So, I am this kind of person, and if something comes up, some sort of cognitive dissonance to say, well, maybe I'm not that kind of person, I'll either change my behaviour or change my view of myself. But once someone...
There actually is one other solution.
Okay, yes.
It's ignore.
Oh, yeah, of course.
There are people who hold simultaneously beliefs in evolution and they're religious. And so they ignore the discrepancy. They just say they're things that don't coexist. So
yes. Thank you. So yeah, once the initial conversions happen, the torrent begins, and pretty much as many memes as make up the religion just flood in. You've accepted the initial "I'm now a Christian." To be logically consistent, that means you believe this, and there's a very strong push for that as well. There's a great deal of pressure. If you don't believe the same as us, then you're not a Christian, or you're not saved, or etc., etc. Okay, authority. Now, either a book or a person becomes imbued with religious authority, after which everything they say, the Bible says it, I believe it, that settles it. I've seen bumper stickers like that, which is just, it's enough to make you cry. Or the Pope says it. It doesn't really matter what it is, but some sort of authority, and as Chris Mooney says in the book, there are people who crave that. Their psychological profile is they want an authority to tell them what to believe. But I think that there's part of that in all of us. Having this idea of authority is natural. It's kind of like a thinking shortcut for most of us. And no matter what sort of field of study or research you go into, you'll find like a professor or an expert or someone who talks a lot of sense on that subject. And once you've had the initial, oh yeah, okay, I agree with that, agree with that, agree with that, there becomes a shorthand. That person talks sense. I'm more likely to accept something that they say, which is okay as a shortcut. But you need to, guard against it as well. And it's really what it is lazy thinking, and that's okay for most of the time. But especially when it's something as important as what you believe about the world. You need to just know that it's there.
I think if you thought that deeply about everything you did, you'd freeze up and not.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
There's trade-offs to be made in living.
Absolutely. So the guard for this, to stop from this, is skepticism, of course, and I'm preaching to the choir talking about that here, I think. Active faith. Magical thinking. This is my pet peeve. I hate this. My mother is a Wiccan, and she's kind of where memes go to die. Like beliefs that no one else will believe in anymore. She gives them a home for a while.
Does she try to pass them on to you?
Yeah, of course. She last time I was down there, she said that my mood was a bit down. My mood was down because I'd tried to ask her about, why don't we have a microwave here to heat up the kids' meals? And she said, oh, they put radiation into the house. I'm like, you're swimming in radiation now. What are you talking about? Anyway. And so there was that frustration, and then she said, "Oh, your mood's a bit off. Here you go. I've got something for that. Just put this crystal in your pocket." I'm like, "Mum, I'm not putting that crystal in my pocket." She goes, "Just do it. Come on, and it was. That was the whole 2 weeks I was there, trying to get me to put this crystal in my pocket.
And you became a Christian instead?
Yeah, exactly. Well, basically she said that when I was a teenager, choose your path, choose your whatever, and as long as it's not Christianity, so... it was a given. It was a given.
Waving a red flag at a bull, yeah?
Exactly. Okay. The human brain is the most powerful pattern recognition machine we've ever known. Eventually we might make something better, but it's pretty amazing. It's really good at spotting patterns and coincidence and things like this. Not so good at evaluating probabilities. So we see coincidence, we think, and there's this other thing of we're the most important beings in the universe, of course. The whole universe is made with us in mind. Therefore, any coincidence must be personally relevant to my life. So I think that's in a large part what's behind this idea of magical thinking. But cultural influences. There's the Buddhist one, the Tathagata Buddha. The Father Buddha said, "With our thoughts we make the world." Any monkey fans out there? Which is true in a trivial sense. Like, our experience of the world is all our perceptions and our thoughts. So, but we don't actually make the world, we only make our perception of it. And then there's Jesus, of course, who said, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, get up and throw yourself in the ocean and it'll do it, which just goes to show there's not many people with faith as a mustard seed. Or there'd be mountains jumping into the ocean.
Exactly.
Exactly. Again, the search for our own personal truth. Yeah.
Alaric, that thing, search for our own personal truth, I think a good translation might be a search for a moderately comfortable, functional set of personal falsehoods. And I am serious there. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're not totally annoying somebody, if you actually come up with a set of falsehoods you're comfortable with, you have a certain confidence, a certain relaxedness, and that may actually help you personally. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's much point trying to work out what's true or what the world is, unless you actually want to find out what's actually true.
Well, rather than saying truth, it could be what works for you, and I think they're different sentiments. But anyway, I'll shut up there.
Yeah.
But in regards to the human brain, do you think it would be a case of mistaking pattern for purpose?
Oh, of course, and that in childhood, that is pretty much all we do. Is everything has like you ask a 5-year-old, why is something the way it is? They'll answer with, because it has to be because of this function. I can't think of an example off the top of my head.
Well, we seem to have what's called a hyperactive agency detection mechanism, and we imbue agency in things because it's safer for us to think that the bush shook because there's a jaguar there than it's just the wind. Because if it's just the wind, it's fine, no big deal. But if it's a jaguar, we're dead. So it's selective pressure for this self-delusion. So it's a type 1, type 2 error problem. And the cost of committing a type 1 error, a type 2 error, the misidentification, is so high that you have to make the mistake of overthinking something bad or so on and so forth.
Well, the people who did that got taken out of the gene pool, so we're left with the agency, the hyper agency people. Okay, the cult of positivity. This just drives me absolutely spare, this stuff. My brother-in-law used to go on about this stuff all the time. You know, the Think and Grow Rich, the power of positive thinking, all that sort of stuff. Now, there's a difference between... I actually don't think optimism's even a very good idea. I think we should... What we should be aiming for is realism, to be sure. And you can say, like, there's. I don't think there's a problem seeing the silver lining, as long as you see the cloud as well. I don't think there's any problem with aiming for something positive, but if you're not doing it realistically, then. Like this idea that we have in this culture that you have to think positive and you have to. I think it's damaging, and then it makes people who are realists look like pessimists because everyone else is trying to be positive and.
Is happiness involved in the social
I don't know, but there's someone here who does. There's a psychologist.
There's a radio show, something about happiness, and I've been asked to be on it. It's in October. And I would say that what happiness actually is not a social signal, but that it lets you know, it's a readout system that lets you know whether you're being successful in the adaptive challenges you need. So for a guy, if I'm successful at getting lots of women to have sex with me, I'm going to be happy. Why? Because that's one of men's major challenges, is convincing beautiful women to bet us. Whereas for women, what's going to make them happy is things like, did he get me a big ring, or does he provide for me, or other things that are evolutionarily relevant to the female biology versus the male biology. So that's what I would say happiness is.
That's extremely sexist.
You could say it's sexist, but if you'd like to talk about why men and women are different, I would love to battle you endlessly. Constructivism around gender is just laughable.
Okay.
There's a biological difference between men and women, and you can deny it all you want. But the truth is that we have different reproductive biology, and that alters our...
Oh, wait. Okay. we'll keep going. This is what I hoped would happen.
Yeah, all right.
This is what I hoped would happen. I hope we'd generate discussion, but I kind of hoped it would happen after I'd had my go.
Still a few seats for dinner.
Okay, just by thinking a thought, you can cause something to happen. And this is widespread in our culture, and it's just sort of shorthand superstition, and you say something, and you might even be joking, like someone's late, and you might say, oh, I hope they're not dead. Oh, don't even say that, because if you say that, then they might die.
I have to differ with you. There is a book called by Professor Richard Wiseman, sort of science of luck and that sort of thing. And while he's not claiming a causal link in this superstitious way, he is saying there's some very interesting correlations between people's attitudes and their objective measures of success.
Correlation is not causation.
It may not be, but it's still going on.
Correlation is not causation.
I'm not saying it's supernatural causation, but there is something going on there.
Okay.
I disagree with you too, and I agree with the gentleman who read there, because I think you're actually, by affirming positive affirmations, you're absolutely, or actually programming your subconscious mind, and you're not even aware of behavioural patterns that you then put into place to react to you in a different way.
Yeah, your subconscious mind knows when you're bullshitting though, surely. It's your subconscious mind, and if you're looking in the mirror saying, I'm thin, I'm thin, I'm thin, your subconscious mind's sitting there saying, you're fucking fat.
Getting off track here.
Yeah.
I'm going to adopt a certain attitude today.
Yeah. Oh no, but hang on, that's basic.
Whatever you want to do to begin it creates a certain enthusiasm that people detect, and they come in behind you.
Yeah, okay. So what you're basically saying is having a certain mental attitude, which of course you can affect by that's. Actually, that's what I said. The power of positive thinking. Shut it! You'll go outside. No, I need a gavel. I do need a gavel. Okay, I'm calling shenanigans on this anyway. Okay, you can change your perception of yourself from I am poor to I am rich. Doesn't change your bank balance. Okay, you can compare yourself with someone from Afghanistan and say, well, I've got a house and a car and a decent job, and they've got nothing, and so I'm rich and they're poor. Hasn't changed your bank balance one iota. Your perception is I'm rich. That's changed. Your bank balance hasn't changed. Okay, and is that what you're talking about, power of positive thinking? Or because I'm all for that, changing your perception of things, but
changing your attitude and perceptions and generating enthusiasm and personality changes that affect the way other people react to you and affect the way in which the world seems to treat you. And programming the don't forget the subconscious mind. So
you're talking about. Yeah. Okay. We'll get into that afterwards. Okay. If faith actually did have a physical effect, we'd be able to measure it. It would do something. It has to do something in the physical world if it's going to have a physical effect. And where does it cross over from supernatural bullshit land into this real world and have that effect? Like, what's the mechanism? We'd be able to measure it. We can't measure it. It doesn't happen.
Well, you might be able to, wouldn't you?
Maybe. But that's the time. Hang on.
Happier and all that.
That's different again, though, isn't it? That's your own body. Your own mind is already in your own body. So, but the time to believe in it is when you can see that it's happening, when you can show that it's happening, not before. That brings me on to my grandmother and the 500,000. She got the shits with her life.
brings you onto your grammar, not
Okay, I should rephrase that. But she got the shits with her life and decided, right, that's it. She walked down to the newsagents, she bought 3 lottery tickets, she went home, she started packing her bags. 2 weeks later, she got a phone call, you've won $500,000 in the state lottery. So she moved out, left my grandfather and moved down to Sydney with her family. That's a pretty impressive story right there. And I was a Christian at the time thinking, wow, that's great faith and everything, and we spent the next 20 years trying to replicate it. Didn't work. Because correlation is not causation. This happened had nothing to do with any of that. It was chance. And as out there as that chance might be, I mean, what we don't know about is how many other hundreds of people started packing their bags and, believing all this stuff.
I don't know if she didn't just tell you that you packed her bag.
Exactly.
Even prove that.
Exactly.
She told you that you packed her bag.
Yeah, all of these things look much more profound in hindsight than they do at the time.
And we don't talk about the times that she packed her bags and didn't win.
No.
Before those, Dawkins talks about this in his most recent book, The Magical Reality. The last chapter is all about magical thinking and miracles and this kind of just simple coincidence that we misinterpret.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not very good at working out probabilities and stuff. Now karma. Oh my God, karma. In Buddhism, karma means action. Okay? That's it. And what it means is if you have cultivate habits in your life, those habits will have an effect. Okay? A cumulative effect on your life. So if you have bad habits, if you're an aggressive driver, say, if you're an angry driver on the road, in Buddhism, that has a karmic effect. Okay, eventually you're going to get the shits with the wrong person who's having a really crap day and got a gun in their glove box. Will pull it out and shoot you. Now, it's not because you've done something in a past life. It's not because you've pissed off so many drivers before and eventually, well, your number's up and you're going to... It's because of probability. If you're that sort of driver, eventually you're going to piss off the wrong person. Okay, it's inevitable that will happen. So it's cumulative probabilities that karma was talking about. Not this, I guess there's a difference between Buddhist karma and Hindu karma, but it's not about accruing brownie points. It's about the momentum and the direction of your life. And ego grants us more significance than is realistic. And it has to, because we are all we know, really. When we're looking out at the world, it's us and the world. But the universe is not actually all about us. Shocking, I know, but... Okay, negative faith. This is the exoskeleton of the memiplex. This is religion. This is what stops anything from harming the religious belief. Oh, and the previous one, magical thinking. That for a religious person, like for a Christian, when they talk about faith, that's often what they're talking about. That force that can change the world, that thing that I have faith and I can do these wonderful things. Negative faith is kind of like the consequence of the salvation dogma. It's if you have faith in Jesus Christ, then you'll be saved. Which means without it, you're going to hell. That's not a good thing for Christians, because they look with glee at all of us going to hell. they don't want to be down there with us. So negative faith can be thought of as the mammoplex's immune response. And negative because it has its roots in fear and aversion. So it's the fear of not being saved that just puts up all these psychological barriers to anything. Like when I was a Christian, there were a lot of things that I just didn't even see. They didn't even get through to me. Like I was there with everybody else when things were happening, didn't notice them because I couldn't notice them because there was just this block there that stopped me noticing. And any sort of evidence that comes in that might jeopardize your faith. That Adam and Eve didn't really exist, or that evolution is true and the evidence for that's a chink. That's Ephesians 6:16. In addition to this, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Okay, and flaming arrows is what we're all about as atheists. Throwing flaming arrows at the Christians, and like, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that?
We live in this century, so how about bombs or?
Yeah, grenades. I like grenades.
What's a flaming arrow when you've got a 7.67?
But this it actually shows that they kind of know this, that faith is the thing that protects them from all of the evidence that we might throw at them, and it's in the religious imagery even, the shield of faith. And when I was coming out of Christianity, I had people in the church exhorting me to put on the shield of faith. Oh, you've just got to get that shield up. You've just got to stop those things from getting to you, because otherwise, you might lose your faith. And it repels questions with the notion that belief without evidence is not only valid but noble and exemplary. To me, this is the offensiveness of faith. This is an affront to everything human, I think.
Your last paragraph there, about doubts to this way of thinking is the most evil of enemies, that rings a bell with me. Like I told you about at the last meeting, or a couple of meetings ago, when I got physically thrown out of church by a Southern Baptist minister.
Yeah.
When he found out I was an atheist. I was such a threat to his belief system
that
he couldn't tolerate me in the building.
Well, we are.
They didn't want it to burn down or anything. So.
Yeah. Well, we are instruments of the devil to them. We are, because we're all about flaming arrows. We're all about evidence. We're all about challenging the belief, and it might be a noble goal to rid the world of superstition and religion. They don't see it that way. What they see is that we are trying to cause them and the people they love to go to hell.
I don't know about that. I really don't like the flaming arrow strategy, because as coming from a biology perspective, I think it's more about my leg is better than yours.
Yeah,
I know, like my uni society, our atheist society hangs around with the inventors, and there's so much over to things that our club president says just because he's hot. And his manner is so not Ravenclaw or Slytherin. It's very calm, a bit Ravenclaw, but just.
Yeah.
If you get what I mean.
Yeah. But no matter how hot he is, any evidence that he says, any argument against Christianity is a flaming arrow.
They don't listen to the arguments. They'll talk about what food he likes or other things. They're happy to talk about how hot he is with me, but they don't care about logic. No, it's feelings.
No. But there has to be, in order to get them to challenge it, because I mean, it's massive. Like, the more I think about it, the more I'm just amazed that I ever got out. There's so much in terms of the hooks that it has in their psychology. There's just so much there. Because they lose their faith, they lose their friends, they might lose their family, they lose their salvation, they go to hell for eternity. Like, there's just so much at stake. So you've got to try to wedge open the door, just even a tiny bit. You have to create some sort of cognitive dissonance so that they at least start questioning, maybe. But so flaming arrows, call them whatever you will. That's their image of them. But yeah, it's you just have to keep chipping away. But what I want to urge everyone is that when you're chipping away, be mindful of the person that's underneath this weight of belief. Be mindful of the person who has all of this to lose, and they're going to get angry and upset and not show you the best of their humanity, because they are terrified, really. At the core of it, they are just terrified that things that you're saying are going to cause them to fall away and to lose their faith.
I think the thing that convinces us more is the apologetics of the Bible rather than the Bible itself sometimes.
Yeah.
If they're confused about a passage, read this this book by this theologian, he explains everything.
There's always someone that will do that. I mean, like you watch a William Lane Craig debate, and really all he does is gets up and restates his argument as if the other person hasn't even spoken, and says he didn't refute this, he didn't refute it, everything's okay, and restates his case with more confidence. Yep, and that's all that is someone who, most Christians won't even watch the other person. They'll just watch William Lane Craig and skip to the next time he talks, skip to the next time he talks.
I get that a lot. Like, I'll just watch Hitchens and not pay attention to William Lane Craig too. So.
Exactly. So he hasn't got a lot to say. Once you've seen one or two of his debates, it's pretty much all the same after that. But that just restating the argument again, as if it's hasn't been touched. And doing it with confidence, for a Christian that wants reassurance, they see the confidence, that's okay. He's great and he knows what he's talking about, he's a theologian. But
how can you break that circle? Practical.
You can't. You can't. Only...
Chip away on their
exactly.
But how do you do that in real life?
I know how. I know how. You go to a lecture on social psychology, because that's what broke my circle. In the first year of behavioural science, when I was an undergraduate, I walked out of that lecture stunned and shocked to my back, because I knew I didn't believe this religion because of the accuracy of the theory.
Yeah.
I believed it to maintain the integrity of my social structure.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many. There's so many.
Is that evidence that dinosaurs are people?
There's lots of different. I mean, everyone's got a different story coming out, and probably the same going into religion. But as atheists, not being angry is a really good first step. I remember I used to go on trains and preach to people on trains when I was a Christian. Yeah, I was that guy. And I was talking to this guy who was a Buddhist. And he was like, oh, really? Oh, you believe that? And I ranted and raved at him and said, and eventually I got to the point where I said, well, why are you a Buddhist? Because the Buddha just died, but Jesus rose again and he's with us now. And he said, oh, no, actually, the Buddha didn't die. I was like, what? I think I said that he died of hepatitis or something. And he said, no, the Buddha didn't die. He turned gold and ascended to heaven. And he just smiled at me and I went, okay, like I can't exactly say, well, that has to be bullshit because ascending to, like, you know what I mean? Like, but the thing that struck me about that encounter, wasn't anything to do with what he said. It was the grace with which he said it. I just sat there and pounded him with my bullshit. And said that his religion was bullshit and everything, and he just smiled back at me and said, "No, it's not." You know, like, and that struck me, and there's power in that, I think. And so, as atheists, I think what we need to do is not lose sight of the goal, for starters, that what we're trying to do is get them to question and everything. Not get too carried away with the actual single little argument that you're trying to win at the time, and be graceful about it. Like, there's nothing in us that's really being challenged when we're talking to a Christian or a religious person. Like, there's nothing in me that when a Christian says, "Oh," and rants and raves, I'm actually kind of smiling inside, thinking, you know, well, at least I've got something, you know, some sort of reaction out of them. But as offensive as the stuff they say is to your intellect, you don't have to take offence. When they come out with Pascal's wager that you've heard, like, so many times. I mean, if you've come out of religion, you've considered pretty much all the arguments to get out. When they come up with Pascal's wager as if you never could possibly have heard that in your life, that's kind of offensive. They're kind of, you know, in a roundabout way calling you stupid. Just, you know, let it go. They've got a lot more to lose than we do.
Well, Alaric, that mistake happens a lot, you know, when you're involved in some particular area and someone comes up with this article they found in the paper and said, "Oh, look, I found this article on what you're..."
I know.
The same sort of thing happens a lot.
I know. And again and again. And the stupidity of a lot of the stuff. Like, if you've got any sort of background in science and the stuff they come up to, for example, refute evolution, you know, because it's something that they were thinking about the other day, that evolution can't be true because of this. Yeah.
Monkeys.
Yeah, it doesn't. You've got to do a bit more than that to refute.
Supposedly Satan's travelled back in time and planted the fossils.
Yeah. Or God put the fossils there to test our faith. Yeah.
That's all right. I believe that one.
See, maintaining your faith in the face of overwhelming evidence is a virtue. That's the sort of thing we've got to be challenging, I think.
What's your thoughts on the sort of defence mechanisms here also being rooted in, say, sunk costs and the loss aversion that we have compared to gains, and realising instantly all those losses as, you know, sunk effort and, you know, faith effort.
Actually had that in the debate.
Negative psychological driver to not accept any contrary evidence because, you know, what have I been doing with my life for the past?
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's a lot for them to lose.
There are a lot of denominations of Christianity, like Quakers, Unitarians, Uniting Church and so on, who really are very mild compared to the Christianity that you came from. So,
yes.
You know, and like, there's also some Christians you'll find who are warm with the Holy Spirit. They have no need to discuss anything with you. And
no.
you know, they're just...
Well, don't.
They're just relaxed,
Don't.
calm, content, you know, I mean...
I don't discuss religion with people unless they bring it up.
The other thing that
personally,
along with the Holy Spirit, you really wonder if it's fear that's driving them to that place. I really do wonder if fear is what...
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
Alaric, with due respect, if you're not bringing it up, you're missing so much fun.
I know, but yeah, but I mean, there's already a perception that challenging someone's faith or their religion is kind of not kosher. It's taboo, and we're kind of swimming against the tide by even doing it, and so I think it's behooving to us to tread softly when we do that, so that, because we are swimming against the tide, and any actually no, I disagree with myself there. It takes all sorts. Well, you need your Hitchens, and you need your Dawkins, and you need your Sam Harrises, who's very polite and everything. You need all of them. You need
your Alaric, who's going to question this. We don't question them. The statistics that we were at 16% 2001, and we're 22% in 2011.
I think that's more to do with how people answer the census than with actual conversions.
It's also the marching demographic, the young people getting older.
Yeah. Negative faith is what we're running into when we get all the vitriol, and when Richard Dawkins gets his sublimely entertaining hate mail.
An unforgivable sin thing would be a big factor in making people hard to question it. Apostasy being the one unforgivable state or whatever.
Yeah, true. Okay, now here, this was kind of like, getting ready for this talk, this was just kind of chuck this in here, but what I wanted to show with this argument, like the Christian says, God created the universe from nothing. The atheist, why do you believe this? Christian, faith. And that the word faith means believing something you don't have any evidence for, or the evidence of things not seen, if they want to use theirs. The word we normally use for that is gullibility. So one of the things I think that might be useful is to, when they say things like that, say, well, it's gullible to believe things without evidence, so how about we substitute gullibility there instead of faith? Why do you believe it? Because I'm gullible.
Good luck with that.
I know, but what I'm trying to do in that is try to get them to see that the emperor has no clothes. Like this word faith that they've imbued with all of this meaning, it doesn't actually mean anything. It's smoke and mirrors. There's nothing there. So when they say faith, and for them, faith is this great shining thing, the thing that sets them apart from us, the thing that is the source of their salvation, the thing that can move mountains, the thing that can transform their lives if you just send $40, $39.95 in 3 easy payments. You know what I mean? Like that's, to them, that's what faith means. So when you've battered down all of their arguments and they get back to, well, I just believe it because of faith, it's just faith, I think we have to start unpacking that and saying, what do you actually mean by faith? What does faith mean to you? Because without doing that, that's an automatic get out of jail free card. No matter how crushed they are by your arguments, well, I can walk away because, I have faith and you can't touch that. Nah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
An illustration about that second last paragraph again. At a creationist conference called Questioning Evolution I went to, the visiting minister,
a conversation with someone on Facebook, a guy who used to be in my church. I used to live with, actually, in a share house. Exactly that. He said, because I basically came out to him last week as an atheist. So, I don't really believe that. And he said, I know why you don't believe that, because you used to say, well, maybe it doesn't matter whether Adam and Eve actually existed, that, it's about the meaning of the story. And that's where you went, that's where you let the devil in, and that's, and it's evolution. Evolution is the root of the problem. You believe in evolution, and, evolution was the source of all of my belief, apparently. But yeah, he fully believes that if you start questioning any part of the Bible, then
What faith is a Darwin and all?
yeah. Well, his negative faith is really strong. He doesn't like questioning anything. Okay, and this is what I was getting to before. There's no real such thing as an ego. An ego is kind of a construct in our own mind. Doesn't really exist. You pull apart someone's brain, you're not going to find the place where the ego is. And this is for our own negative faith. Just when you're losing an argument, quite rightly because you're wrong, letting it go. And what I think we need to do is to cultivate a love for and a seeking in disillusionment. Because there's no greater gift, really, that you can give to someone than disillusionment. If you can get rid of your illusions and see life and everything as it actually is, you're more capable of responding to it in a true fashion. Now, it's going to be painful. Disillusionment is painful, and it's supremely painful for a religious person. But we have to seek it. We have to get it in our heads that, no, this is a good thing. Losing an argument, losing faith in an argument even, is a good thing if we can learn something from it, if we can change our own illusions or get rid of our own illusions and come closer to finding the truth. And there's a Buddhist practice that does this really well, and it's actually in Buddhism they list it as an intoxicant. Rigid views are seen as an intoxicant, the same as alcohol or any of the others. So this is a mechanism to stop rigid views, and that is the saying, all views are wrong views. Now, it's obviously bullshit because they can't all be wrong views, but it's what if Buddhists are in an argument and it starts getting heated and someone refusing to step down, all views are wrong views. Okay, that's it. You can kind of let it go. It's just a tool for thinking. It's a tool for being able to let go of an argument, being able to let go of the ego and let go of the I have to be right. That's it.